You've probably been wrestling with the same question every time you need to move a pallet of parts, a stack of drywall, or a heavy toolbox around the shop. Do I keep using that rickety hand truck and risk a back injury? Or do I invest in something a little more robust that actually saves me time? I get that hesitation because I've been there trying to juggle a load that's just a bit too big for a regular dolly, then watching the wheels wobble and the load shift as I turn a corner. The last thing you want is to spend a few weeks dealing with a cart that looks good on paper but turns out to be a daily nuisance. That's why I dug into the Vestil Cart 1000 DFR Steel Premium Double Scissor Lift Cart before hitting the record button. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of work environment where this cart actually shines. Imagine a small to medium fabrication shop where you're pulling sheet metal panels off a rack, stacking them on a cart, and then wheeling them over to a CNC cutter. You need a platform that can lift the panels up to waist height without you having to bend or lift manually, but you also need to roll the whole thing across a concrete floor that's got a few cracks and some debris. The Cart 1000 DFR's double scissor mechanism does exactly that. You crank the handle and the platform rises smoothly to 24 inches, then you can lock it in place with the foot release lever. Because it's steel all the way through, you're not worrying about the frame bending after a few months of heavy use. The casters are sized to roll over rough shop floors without snagging, and the load capacity of 1,000 pounds means you can stack a decent amount of material without flirting with the limit. Now, who should walk away from this cart? If you're a hobbyist who only moves a few boxes a week, you'll probably find the price a bit steep for the capacity you need. The cart weighs around 180 pounds when empty, so you'll need at least one person to lift it onto a truck or a loading dock. If you're running a one-person operation and you don't have a sturdy ramp or lift, that extra weight could become a hassle. On the flip side, if you run a workshop where you're routinely moving pallets of parts, loading and unloading bulk supplies, or need a safe way to elevate heavy items for assembly, this cart can actually pay for itself in reduced worker fatigue and fewer dropped loads. Let's dig into the practical strengths that matter after the box is opened. The first thing you'll notice is the lift action. Because the scissor arms are double stacked, the platform gains height quickly without the long, lanky arms you see on single-stage lifts. In my test scenario shifting a stack of 12-inch steel plates, the lift reached full height in just a few seconds of cranking, and the foot release lever made lowering just as effortless. That quick transition is a real time saver when you're on a tight production schedule. Safety is another point that's not just marketing fluff. The platform has a solid steel rail on the front edge, so once the load is up, it's less likely to slide off during transport. The foot release lever is positioned where your foot naturally rests while you're walking behind the cart, so you don't have to stop and reach for a hand-operated lock. That little ergonomic detail cuts down on the awkward pauses you usually get when you have to manually secure a lift. Portability, despite the steel construction, is surprisingly decent. The casters swivel 360 degrees and lock with a simple push, so you can set the cart down, lock the wheels, and the platform stays put while you load or unload. When you need to move it to another area of the shop, you just unlock the wheels, give it a push, and it rolls smoothly. The only trade-off here is the weight. You'll need a clear path and maybe a helper when you're repositioning the cart over a threshold or onto a loading dock. What about the weak spots? One thing that showed up during my Hansen trial was the height of the foot release lever. If you're on the shorter side, you might have to crouch a bit to press it comfortably, which could be a minor inconvenience if you're operating the cart all day. Also, because the cart is all steel, the surface can get pretty cold and a bit slick when you're moving it in a colder warehouse. A simple rubber mat on the platform can solve that, but it's an extra step you'll want to consider. Another practical limitation is the lack of a built-in shelf or secondary platform. Some competing models have a lower shelf where you can stash tools or spare parts, keeping the main platform clear for the heavy load. With the Cart 1000 DFR, the only flat surface is the lift platform itself, so you'll need to plan your load.